Well, let's stay on the topic of Roman Reigns real quick, Jim, because several of the listeners have been sending in questions about an incident that happened in Trenton, New Jersey this past weekend, on Saturday, as a matter of fact.
I have no knowledge of that. I wasn't even there. Speak to my attorney.
Okay.
Well, not involving me in Trenton. Okay, go ahead.
Not involving you in Trenton. You wouldn't be caught dead there. But following a match where he defeated...
Many people have been caught dead in Trenton.
Following a match
where... It's not a good place to show up.
Roman Reigns defeated Drew McIntyre on this night in Trenton. And then he got on the mic and, in the midst of a speech, said, and here's a quote, "I've been here many times. I've been here probably a couple of times in the past 10 years. I'm starting to work into a new phase in my career, and honestly, don't know if I'll ever be back here again. If that's the case, I just want to say thank you for all these years of support."
Wait, but Roman Reigns said this?
Roman Reigns said this on the mic after defeating Drew McIntyre in a main event in Trenton, New Jersey.
Why would he do that? Why would he thank the fans?
Obviously, there's a long-standing relationship between Roman Reigns and the fans of Trenton that he felt it was important to address them in this manner. But the word...
Well, everybody's up in arms about, well, what does this mean? Is he quitting wrestling? Is he leaving? Is he going Hollywood? Whatever. I'm more upset that he's a heel and he thanked the fucking fans. That's just idiocy. But what do you think? Is he moving on to where he's got a part-time schedule like the rest of the big boys, and he's not going to do these shows in Trenton anymore?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. I think he probably has a new deal, and he's probably going to be working a schedule like the guys he's been working with. Well, gee, I'm doing this program with Brock, and I'm the only one who shows up every week. And I think house shows, specifically house shows like in Trenton, New Jersey, are probably going to be out of the picture. I think Madison Square Garden will probably still be included. Major pay-per-view events where needed. Maybe a Raw after a pay-per-view if it's important. But more than likely, untelevised events in Trenton, New Jersey will be out of the equation for Roman Reigns going forward. Which goes into what we talked about before. Where do you go with the WWE title? Where do you go with Roman Reigns?
Well, but still, I don't see them taking him off appearing on television most of the time. In this current climate and the ratings dropping for everybody and blah, blah, blah. So I think probably, it's a good bet that he's not going to be doing that many more house shows, but I don't think it's going to be a Brock situation where he shows up for 3 or 4 TVs, does a pay-per-view, and then gets back on the plane and heads to Saskatoon or whatever for however long. But honestly, the best thing for Roman Reigns and the WWE at this point, because he has no credible, competent challengers, should be to not see him wrestle all the time. But then, because their roster is so shitty without Roman, then the pressure is on to put Roman and any other big star they can get a hold of on a lot of these shows, and that just creates too much familiarity. If they had a roster like they've had in the past, where guys were actually over and there was more than 2 or 3 of them on each side, heel and babyface, then yeah, let's not see a lot of Roman, but make it mean something when we do see him. But
a lot of people think Roman, and he has said in the past that he had interest in Hollywood. Of course, he reshaped his jaw, redid his teeth. I'm not exactly sure what it was, but the word around at the time was he did that with the idea that in the future he'd like to do something in Hollywood.
Well, at least he got a good doctor. He doesn't look like that woman that made herself look like a cat. See, that wouldn't be any good. That would can you imagine if Roman Reigns looked like a cat? That probably wouldn't.
Yeah, I don't know if that would work
for him in the movies.
But we saw The Rock go to Hollywood kind of in the middle of his career, and we saw John Cena start picking up roles towards the middle, towards the end of his career, and now he's out there full time. If you're WWE, what do you think of this decision by Roman Reigns? If this is what he wants to do, if he does want to go to Hollywood and try to do something out there, and what are the pros and cons of it? How do you take advantage of it, and what if it doesn't work out?
Well, these are rumors at this point, but you don't just decide, I'm going to go to Hollywood and make movies. Even if you're Roman Reigns, The Rock, if everybody will, it's been more than 20 years now, so maybe they don't remember. He got the role in The Scorpion King. It wasn't about him, right? But he just got a role in a big movie, and that exposed him to a lot of those people and led to other people seeing him. And at the same time, he was one of the top 2 names on the hottest show on television that was drawing 5 and 6 times the number of people that are watching it now, and astronomical pay-per-view numbers and live event tickets being sold across the country everywhere in major NBA arenas. So yeah, that guy got to go to Hollywood. Roman is not nearly as hot, not nearly as over. I'm not even talking about talent or movie star look or whatever. I'm just talking about opportunity and whether it can materialize. He's not as hot. The business is not as hot. He's not as well known. I think he's very talented, but I don't know that he's as good with everything as The Rock has turned out to be. And is anybody going to give him that one role in a big movie that's a hit that doesn't have to ride on him, but to get him seen not only by the movie-going public, but also by the right people to put him in other movies? That's remains to be determined. So it ain't the same thing. I mean, you know, he looks like a guy you'd want to see in a movie, but we'll see what happens. But it's not going to be just that easy. A lot of people now think, well, yeah, Rock just went to Hollywood and started making movies. Even with The Rock, and as hot as he was and as hot as the business was, everything had to happen the right way.
And we probably have more wrestlers today than ever before that actually want to be in movies and see that as a reasonable outcome to their wrestling career.
I love the way you phrased that. See it as a reasonable like it's a reasonable outcome of anything, that after I finish doing this, I'll be a movie star.
Exactly.
Fuck. And then a double knot spy, and then an astronaut. And I mean, you know, and you can tell a lot of the guys and a lot of the girls admit it, even more than the guys do. They get in the wrestling business these days because they think they're going to get on TV, real TV, or the movies or whatever. That's their reason for getting in wrestling. And I've mentioned that I had never, when I was asked to be a part of the wrestling business, which I never thought would actually happen. So obviously, when you're a kid, when I was 8 years old and I found the Tarzan Theater on fucking Saturday afternoons on WHAS here, I wanted to be Johnny Weissmuller. And then it was a TV series. I wanted to be Ron Ely. I liked Tarzan. And then I liked the Wild Wild West. I wanted to be a secret agent in the Old West when I was 7 years old or whatever. A lot of people want to do these things. But when I got in the wrestling business, being on TV was a byproduct of being in the wrestling business. I had never thought for 1 second past, like when you're a kid and you're going to make a movie and you're going to do this and that. I'd never legitimately, okay, I want to be on television. I want to be a newscaster. Or I want to be an actor. Or I want to be a whatever people do on I never legitimately thought that was a possibility past when I was 8. I wanted to make my own Tarzan movie. Did I ever tell you this?
Oh no, I'd love to hear this though.
Well, you know, I sat there thinking I'm watching Tarzan on TV and I'm watching these Tarzan movies, and I know we had my dad's 8mm movie camera, because every once in a while my mom would still get out the old home movies and pull out the projector and put it in front of the door there down in the downstairs and or pull out the screen rather and the projector and show the old movies. I'm thought, well, I've got a movie camera. Now I'm reading Famous Monsters of Filmland too. I'm starting to read that. I'm starting to get into horror movies. And they're explaining the makeup. You know, they have stories on the famous makeup artists, and they're explaining how some of these films are shot. Now I'm starting to read movie books. So I'm thinking I could make a Tarzan movie. We got a camera. But like everything else, I was obsessed with the whole thing. I was very obsessive. So by the time that I had this thing figured out, I was going to be Tarzan. My best friend Tommy, this was second or third grade. So my best friend Tommy was going to be the heel. And he had a little brother that could play all the other parts. My mother could be the cameraman because she's the one that knew how to run the camera. And there was an article in Famous Monsters of Filmland on how you could learn film editing to make your own horror movies. So I'm thinking, well, then I had written part of a script based on one of the Tarzan TV episodes. And then my mother had to sit down and say, okay, Jimmy, it's very good. It's a good thing that you're this motivated. However, what you've just done here is created a situation, and she didn't use this verbiage, but she got the point across. You've created a situation here where I will have to take you and your friend and his brother out of school, put them in a car, because the location I wanted to use was where I'd gone to summer camp near Monteagle, Tennessee, because they had a waterfall, which a waterfall's in every Tarzan movie, right? So I'm going to have to put you in the car along with a lot of rolls of 8mm film and this 20-year-old movie camera and drive you all to Monteagle, Tennessee, which is near Chattanooga and about 5 hours away, and put us up in a hotel for days while you try to help your other your 8-year-old friend and your 6-year-old friend learn the lines from your script so we can shoot this movie, then come back and buy the equipment necessary to edit it together. Maybe you ought to just work on writing. She encouraged the writing. So, but I was going to make the move. Where was I going with that?
Who was going to be Tarzan? Who was going to be Tarzan?
I was.
So you're going to be
if I write the movie, I get to star in it.
You think you would have been a good Tarzan?
Well, I'd have been jumping off the top of that waterfall feet first. I wouldn't do one of those goddamn head first dives like they did in the movies. I'd have been cannonballing, and it was only about 12 feet anyway, the 12-foot waterfall. But it looked big when I was a kid.
All right, well,
So what were we talking about?
I guess this is what Roman Reigns has to look forward to in Hollywood.
Roman Reigns making movies. Yeah, I wouldn't bet on it just yet. I'd get a lot. I'd be the biggest star in the biggest wrestling promotion in the world for a while longer, and get as good a schedule and as much money as I could. And then I'd worry about making major motion pictures and sitcoms.